Okay, so first, thank you for joining Influence Her, the virtual experience. I am joined by Cheresa Reese LaFrances Purnell, honey.
Yes.
Yes, Reese is a leadership development strategist, idea curator, and a spiritual activator, among other things, with 15 years of experience influencing other women to be their best selves. Um, I won't take up all the time bragging about you. I'll let you go ahead and step in, Reese, and tell us a little bit more about you.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, thank you so much for having me. I am so excited to be on this call and so excited to be asked to participate with the Influencer Conference. As you stated, I am a leadership development strategist, an idea curator, and spiritual activator is what I like to say. I have done work in the nonprofit sector over the last 15 years, which is what I have done as my history. And in my capacity as a leadership strategist, I build and lead platforms that support the holistic development of women leaders and girls of color. So those platforms include Demoiselle to Femme, which is French for Young Ladies to Women, which is a organization for girls. We provide programs, services, and training to adolescent girls. Demoiselle to Femme has been around since 1994. I am actually a product of the organization. I'm one of the original 14 girls that our founder and CEO started working with all the way back in 1994. And through that time, we've given away $52,000 in scholarships. We've helped over 600 girls be first generation college graduates. And we've helped probably over 6,000 girls as far as training and programming and services. So Demoiselle de Femme has a history of that. And in that role, I have matriculated from an outreach specialist to an education manager. And now I am the associate executive director of Demoiselle de Femme.
Hand clap.
So that's been pretty cool to do that and have that type of journey. The last few years, 3 years ago, in 2015, I was able to found the 40 Under 40 Young Women's Professional League under Demoiselle to Femme. And basically, the Young Women's Professional League supports the holistic development of women leaders through the conduits of service, leadership development, philanthropy, and sisterhood. So each year we induct 40 women, high-rising leaders. We honor them, and they become a part of our league. And pretty much we spend the year doing service projects. We work with young women 18 to 24 in our College Connection program, where we provide mentorship, college care packages, monthly support calls. Or if you're not in college, but you're between 18 and 24, we also have a T3 program, which is our workforce development program, which is career development, training. Basically, our whole goal is to really support future trailblazers educationally and economically, to have some educational and economic equity for young women. And so that's our goal with that.
Awesome.
So that's a little bit of me in a nutshell.
Right. That's a lot of you in a nutshell. All of that was good stuff. Part of the reason why you were one of the people that I identified to be a part of this Influence Her event is because you are a woman of influence and you do impact, your community, your tribe around you. And I wanted you to speak first more so to leadership and service. Because we are in a time right now where everyone may consider themselves to be in a role of leadership, whether they're operating in that greatness or they're not. So I wanted you to speak to what does it take to be a real leader, and how that applies to service, and if you can be a leader in absence of service.
So basically, to me, I tell people all the time, there's a difference between a boss and a leader. We hear a lot of people always like, I'm a boss and CEO, and I'm always thinking, I'm a leader, and I'm thinking, okay, a boss has employees. No, you're I'm like, you're a sole proprietor is what you are. You understand what I'm saying? Bosses or lead, they have people that follow them. So, I tell people, so I think we've really gotten away from really understanding what it means to be a leader. And there's a line that I say often, that most people haven't gained respect outside of what they sell, you know, because right now we're in a culture and a generation where everyone is selling you something. They're selling you a workshop, they're selling you a book, they're selling you that they can make you money, you know. And leadership is really not about necessarily what I can do for me. It's about what I can do for you and how we can inspire change in the masses, you know. And it was my whole reason why I decided to start found the Young Women's Professional League, because I felt like we had a lot of millennials who were going into this sell, me. Look at me, look at what I'm doing, look at my brand, you know. And I was like, but who's serving? You know, coming from a culture of watching young women in Demoiselle de Femme and some of the situations that they were coming from, you know, I began to feel like, you know, there are a lot of successful women. To me, there's a difference between a successful woman and women who are leaders. Successful women and women leaders are different. Successful women, you know, they can buy houses, you know, they get the degrees, you work the coins and that whole piece. But there's a difference between a woman who's a leader. A woman who's a leader is always considering, how can I change my environment? How can I inspire change? How can I serve the masses? You know, outside of not for the money, not for the fame, not for the applause, but whose life can I inspire to be on a totally different trajectory than what it was on, because I stepped in to serve them or to help them. And so, yeah, I think when it comes to leadership, number one, the tenement of leadership is, it's not about me.
Mm-hmm.
If it's all about you, then I would beg to differ that that's true leadership. Leadership is about sacrificing for the people, you know, what's for the greater good, having a greater mission outside of the money, having a real purpose that really serves and changes, inspires change in a community or in a family. You can definitely be a woman leader in church. You could be a woman leader, you know, in your job. And not to say that you, like, when it comes to degrees or any of that other things, like if you're a doctor, I tell people all the time, I don't care what field you're in, I don't care what industry you go into, God has called you to be a leader. You know what I'm saying? And so there is no way. The only thing God called you here to do is to make money.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? If you think that that's the depth of what God called you here to do, is to only make money, then, you know, that's a pretty shallow existence, you know? So no, I don't care if you're a nurse, lawyer, doctor, social worker, whatever that looks like, you are not there just to collect a check. You know, leadership steps up and says, you know, how can I inspire change inside of this position? How can I be that light? How can I be instrumental in implementing, you know, programs or services, going beyond my job description, you know? And to me, that's what true leadership is.
That's good. So with the leaders that you've worked with, what were some of the struggles or setbacks? Because sometimes, you know, the struggle can be real. You know,
Oh, absolutely.
You're at the job, you know, whatever your field may be, and sometimes you can get into a sunken place where it's like, all right, I got to show up. I'm here from this time to this time. All right, I'm ready to go. You know what I mean? And you can't really tap outside of that to figure out, okay, I know I'm here to do this, but while I'm here, who can I impact? You know what I mean? Maybe
Right.
it's the customers I'm dealing with. Maybe it's my coworker. You know, you never know. And if you're so shut down because you just you in a routine. I go to work Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. I'm here. I go to lunch at noon. You know, everything's so robotical. So people don't have enough time to kind of step outside of what the routine is to kind of tap into. So with the leaders that you've been working with, like, what are some of the struggles that you feel are common, and how do you get out of that place where you can truly tap into, okay, what is my purpose here? Even if I may feel like, okay, I'm a social worker right now, but I don't think that that's where I'm gonna be 5 years from now, but this is where I'm at now. So how can I maximize that? So what's some advice or feedback you have about that?
So the greatest struggle that any leader really faces is surviving the wilderness season. Most people never reach their highest potential because they're afraid to go through the wilderness. None of us want to go through that season, right? None of us, but pretty much when you think of anyone who has gotten to, who we consider leaders, from an Oprah to a Tyler Perry to a TD Jakes, they all have stories of a very ugly wilderness period. You understand what I'm saying? TD Jakes talks about having his children and his wife sleeping in the car, but holding on to this vision that God had called him to be a world leader and a pastor of a mega church. Now, you must know that this grown man with his wife and his children had people saying, really? So, oh, you supposed to be a pastor? God called you, but you got your wife and your kids in the car.
Right.
So I'm thinking, right. So they're like, yeah, I think you just need to go get a job, bro. I think you just need to go, and most people, if you're not grounded in your faith, grounded in what God has called you to do, most of us, to really be you have to sacrifice it all. You have to be willing to sacrifice everything. And most of us don't want to do that. We want to be comfortable. Most of us will say, well, what I just said, I just need to have a job because I have, most people don't figure out, like, look, if you really passionate about something, okay, especially if you're a single woman, even if you have a situation where I can go back home with mom for a few years, or I can, most of us like, I'm not about to do that. I'm not about to go back home. I don't want to live with my mother. I don't want to go back with my parents, or, those are the type of sacrifices we're not willing to make. When you think about models and people who move to like New York or, that whole piece, a lot of times it's 5 of them in a studio because they like, look, I sleep on this floor because I have a dream, and most people don't understand. And to me, even in my season right now with starting the league, I have gone through a season where I've done a lot of reconstruction with Demoiselle, Femme. As I said, we've been around for 24 years now. Cheresa is our founder, is ready to start a succession plan. She wants to be able to move on to some other things in her journey, which is how I stepped up into the social executive director. So in that, in succession, there's reconstruction. So there's been a wilderness season. There's been a drought season as we restructure. And the interesting thing is now you can see my family and people can see, oh, wow, this league, I'm getting awards. I have an award I'm getting in September, award I'm getting in January. We've been in the league has been in the Rolling Out magazine, Indigo, and people see all of that. And you know what people will still say to me? You need to go get a job. And I'm like, I mean, and so it boggles me, you know what I'm saying, that people minimize, because they can't see, they're looking at the natural.
Absolutely.
And every leader has to be able to see with spiritual eyes. And so to me, I would encourage you, whatever your faith is and your belief system is, you better know it and you better live it. And you have to ground yourself and you have to stay around people who understand what that wilderness season looks like and feels like, who can encourage you through it. Because a lot of times when you're going through that season of really allowing God to develop you and trust you in your, because I will say this, God is not going to give you, okay, here we go. Thank you, Holy Spirit. Okay.
Great.
So I heard someone say, faith that has not been tested cannot be trusted.
That's good.
Faith that has not been tested cannot be trusted, right? So if you believe God has called you to something great, you're going to be tested. So he knows he can trust you so that when you elevate to that platform and you get on that level, he knows you're not going to crumble. You're not going to run, because guess what? You've already been tested and you've pushed through even when you should have given up. When you should have thrown in the towel, you didn't. So God knows I can trust you. Now you can have the platform. Now you can have the mega church. Now you can have, the sold out shows in every city, because when you was standing at the door asking people to come in to watch you do, you know what I'm saying? You didn't give up on it. You know what I'm saying? And so that's the part that I would encourage people, you know, leaders. You're going to go through a season. People don't want to tell you that. See, people just like to sell you the dream. They don't want to tell you it's going to look ugly before it looks great. They don't. They don't. They don't want to tell you the struggle. They don't want to tell you it's going to look really ugly. You're going to have 10 cents in your account while people awarding you awards, and you're going to be like, okay, great.
Right. I appreciate those kind words. I'm negative right about now.
Exactly.
But God
and
will.
Still being able to press and see the vision and know that all of it is going to catch up in the long run. You know, people are not going to remember. Nobody remembers, probably even talks about that season when TD was in the car, or when, you know, Tyler was begging people to come in. People don't understand that that's just the season, and where God is taking you, when it all comes to the pinnacle, when you get to the platform, it's going to be like that season never even happened. Mm-hmm. Because people are going to, the way the blessings are going to come in so great that'll just be a testimony. People don't even, you know, you'll look back on those times, you'll laugh. Yeah. You know, God will cause you to laugh at those seasons of your life, but you got to press through them. And most of us, we give up. We just go back to a job. Mm-hmm. I need the money.
Because one thing I do tell myself, and it takes some time, you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
You definitely have to build your faith and be very confident about who you are and be very intentional. And when I'm going through tough times, you know, I'm like, you know what, this is going to be a really good testimony one day.
Yes.
God, thank you for developing this testimony. And when you kind of have that outlook on it, sometimes it allows you to, you know, just embrace it and digest it a little bit, and don't get, you know, like you have your little tantrum for a minute, but then, you know, come on back and be like, absolutely. You know what, you know, God, thank you. But I wanted to tap on one thing that you said about, you know, when you're in that, and when you're in the wilderness, and mm-hmm. having people around you to help elevate you, to encourage you, to support you, and things like that. And one of the reasons and motivations for me, you know, deciding to do this event, the Influence Her event, because I feel like not too many women mm-hmm. show up and mm-hmm. support each other the way mm-hmm. we need to support each other. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Someone's not, you know, not performing well, or they having a tough time, you know, we kind of like, you know, poke fun, or, you know, make, you know, very blind comments, thinking we're aware of their situation and how they may have gotten in the situation without really knowing their story. And right. I think that's so important. And I don't know what's the missing link. Like, I feel like we're getting there, we're making strides, but we're not there yet. And I'll be honest, especially with women of color, you know, you go mm-hmm. into other circles, you know, they are sharing their resources. They will make time for you. How you want to know this? Oh, girl, I'll email that to you. I'll do this. You know, they're not stingy. And I feel like, you know, with women of color, sometimes we're very stingy. It's like, you know, I say I want you to win, but I ain't gonna help you.
Right. I don't want you to win before I do. I don't want you to beat me to the finish line. Right.
Exactly. Right. So it's like, you know, how do you kind of get, you know, how can we do better? You know what I mean? Because, you know, I want to see my sisters win. You know what I mean? I want to be the one standing up with that Taraji clap there. You know what I mean? How she stood up for Viola. So it's like, you know, how do we build those communities, those tribe of women who are comfortable enough to support and show up for their sister, you know, in any capacity that they can?
Number one, I would say be it. You can't attract anything that you're not willing to be. Mm-hmm. You understand what I'm saying? So initially you have to be willing to be it. A lot of times fear, insecurities, all those things keep us from really being our higher self, really tapping into our soul and what we believe to be true. If you believe that to be true, that you are supposed to be helping other women, start helping. You know, that's what that's number one, be it. Number two is create it. If you feel like there's a lack and you don't see something, or you feel like there's lack or a void, and there's something that is missing and it needs, and it's missing, create it. That's what I did with the lead. That's what I felt. I felt like we had enough organizations that talked about being a boss or a CEO or get your coins, get this. And I felt like there was a missing piece, that we were not encouraging women to have a greater purpose outside of pursuing coins, pursuing accolades, pursuing, brands, or, and so I felt that there was a void, and I felt like how much more instrumental we could be in our communities if we would bring high-rising leaders, young women leaders together under a mission to serve, And so because I saw that void, I was like, I'm not going to talk about it. I'm not going to complain about it. Guess what? I'm going to be it, and I'm going to create it. You understand what I'm saying? And so I would encourage women. So a lot of times I don't get into a lot of the, women don't support women, because I don't even allow myself to have those type of conversations. Mm-hmm. When I start feeling like that, I check in with myself. How are you not being that? And then what is lacking that needs to be implemented or created? Those are the conversations I instantly have with myself. Whenever I start feeling that type of way about women, or, someone said this, or, the first thing I do is kind of say, why is that triggering me? What am I supposed to really get from that? Why does her saying that trigger me in a way? What am I supposed to learn about that? Is that a part of me that I'm refusing to really acknowledge in myself? Do I act like that? First of all,
some tough conversations.
Come on, you really do. Do I act like that? Or do I judge that, women who act like that? Because one thing I will say, which is why you have to check in with yourself, is when you're going to work with a lot of women. Right now, the league has inducted 120 women. So that's 120 different personalities, 120 different expectations, 120 different, women who now I have to, deal with and manage and all of that. Right. And so it causes for me to have to check in with myself a lot. It has really grown me as a leader. It has grown me as a woman. It has grown me as a friend. It has made me see areas of my life when I don't reach in friendship, and what it means to really develop a sisterhood. I think a lot of times, people in leadership, it can be very easy to make it a us and them instead of a we. And so I talk we language a lot. The league is not Cheresa Purnell and the 40 under. It's not Reese LaFrances and the 40. No, it's the 40 under 40 young. It's the Young Women's Professional League. Mm-hmm. So that means it's a we. It's not an I. It's not an I and them. It's a us. And so I definitely believe that, to your question, I cannot say it enough. Really be it. If you feel like there's a lack in something, ask yourself then, how am I? Because there's no way, if you put something out, if you put it out there, you're going to get it back. You're going to reap what you sow. If you sow what you're looking for, you're going to reap it. And guess what? This is the part, though, that most people get frustrated about. You may not reap it from the people you sowed it into.
Can you
that you may not reap it from the people you sowed it into. Mm-hmm. And that's the part that you have to be okay with. Because a lot of us feel like, well, I showed up for them and I did this for them, and then when it was my turn, they what that's not the foundation of sowing and reaping. That if I sow right here, I'm going to reap. No, you may sow it right there, and God may have you reap it from a totally different place. All that you need to know is you're going to reap it, right? But a lot of times we cut off that blessing and we go into a negative space because we didn't get it back from the people we sold it into. So now we shut down and we act ugly, and now we ain't going.
We in our feelings. We feel
exactly. So and we shut down the flow.
Business right now. You better somebody's business.
Right. We shut down the flow because we get mad. We get in our feelings and we shut down that flow of reciprocity because we were looking for it to come from a different place. And we got to get out of that. It's not, because to me, that's a tit for tat, and that's not really genuine sowing.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? When you sow into something, you sow and you let God bring the harvest. You don't look for it to, I did this for you, so you should. No, that's not love. That's manipulation and control. That's what that is. And that's what most of us actually do. We show up to people's events because we think well, if I show up here and they see me there, then maybe that's manipulation. Right. You know what I'm saying? That's manipulation and control. If that's where you want to be and you genuinely want to be there and you genuinely want to support that person and hear what they're talking about, then go and expect that when you do yours, that you will get the same. People who genuinely want to be there to hear what you're talking about, and you let God do the rest. So that's what, I would say to women who are finding it difficult to find women who support them. Go out and support other women, and you will get it back. You will receive it back.
Yes. Oh, yes.
Be it or create it.
be it or create it. Yes, ma'am. So another thing I wanted to talk to you about, you help your leaders become better leaders in finding their God-given purpose, sort of.
Yeah.
A lot of people throw that out there, and it sounds so basic. Like, oh yeah, God purpose. Yeah, let me go ahead to John 16. So, you know what I mean? Like it sounds like so easy and accessible, and it is for some people. You know what I mean? Some people can, really have that strong relationship with God or their faith, and they can really tap into something and come out with something. But other people struggle with that because I feel like for me in the beginning, I kind of was listening to too many opinions. I was kind of seeking too much feedback. And I was starting to measure their feedback based on what I had already set out for myself. And like, well, they didn't say what I said. Okay, but then they had said, and then it's like I got lost in my own perception. Like I was kind of like, okay, what am I doing here? Because all right, Taisha, don't ask another person nothing else about, you know what I mean? You have to really tap into it. And I mean, I'm still growing, I'm still developing. Like I know God isn't through with me yet and the things that he wants to expose me to, or for me to step into. But what help, like what do you do? You know what I mean? Like where do you start? Like how do you, what are some tangible things that you can do to kind of tap into what that is? Because if not, unfortunately, a lot of times we waste a lot of time doing a lot of stuff that we are just not even called to be doing, or we're not really passionate about it, or like you said, we just chasing a coin, we just need a quick buck. You know what I mean? So it's like, what are some steps or something tangible that, to kind of get someone started?
So one of the things, the very first step is know yourself. Most people chase opinions, they chase projects because they don't know who they are. They really don't. And one of the tangible things, and actually I have I'm going to, I guess I'll announce it kind of unofficially on here.
We got an exclusive.
So you all are getting ready to get an exclusive. You're getting ready to get a Reese LaFrances exclusive, where I'm actually going to have a series of Sunday brunch and bills for leaders. And it's a leadership masterclass for people for women who feel God has called them to lead the masses. And one of the very first things that we're going to do is we're going to do our Strength Finders assessment. What are your top 5 strengths? What are your top 5 things that you're good at? I read a lot. I do a lot of self-assessments. I've done Strength Finders. I've done the DISC assessment as well. I've even done the Destiny cards, some metaphysical things just to get more insight about who I am as a person and what gifts I bring to the table. And to be honest with you, knowing my Strength Finders and swatting myself was really what set me on the path of these last probably 4 or 5 years, because initially I ran a lot too because I didn't understand myself, right? And I'll share this. My number one strength is futuristic, right? So when it was taught to me, and when I was in a leadership development workshop and did my Strength Finders, the person who was leading the workshop said, okay, so I'll tell you my 5 strengths. Number 1 is futuristic. Number 2 is connectedness. Number 3 is action. Number 4 is ideation, which is where I say I'm an idea curator. And number 5 is woo, right? Those are my top 5 strengths. That put a lot into perspective for me, right? So the person who was leading my leadership development, they said with her 5 strengths, she's always forecasting. So whenever you're ready to come up with a big idea, you need the company to say, what's our next big thing? Cheresa is the person that always needs to be at the table, because she's always thinking about what's the next big thing. That's how I can build something like the 40.
Mm-hmm.
What's missing? You know, that's me, my ideation, what ideas, you know, what's missing? How can I create something that's forward thinking, that's something that could potentially be a thought leader or a game changer? And before, you know, and it talks about in my futuristic description that I'm a type of person that entrepreneurship, startups, that's my thing. I'm the type of person that really, after 2 or 3 years, I'm ready to really move on to my next thing. Now, what's funny is most people would call that as, you know, oh, they don't, but that's who I am, right? Yeah. I like startups, and think how many people who don't share the same hue as us do that, make a lot of money off building startup companies. They stay for 2 or 3 years, they sell it, and they're on to the next. Gary Vee does it. Gary Vee talks about, Vaynerchuk talks about it, right? And so knowing that, I was like, dang, okay, that's good to know that that's who I am, you know. And before, I think I felt a lot of shame about it, because we live in a generation, well, past generations of people who were like, they stayed at jobs for 30 years and then retired. You know, so they don't understand when we like, you doing what? Now you going here, now you know, now you doing this, what you doing, you know? But, you know, it allowed me to really own what I brought to the table. And like I said, when I swatted myself, which is what we're going to do in my leadership masterclass, once you learn those 5 strengths, you're going to take those 5 strengths. We're going to talk about now, how do we SWOT that, right? Then it also showed me, how do I fill in the gaps for what I don't have, right? You didn't hear anything in my thing that said anything about being strategic, analytical, none of that, right? None of that, right? So when I started building the 40 and building the leadership team, I knew where my gaps were. I knew I had to have people who were detail oriented, who were strategic, who were analytical, who had strong planning skills, because I'm an aesthetic person, but I needed a logistics person, right? Because as a visionary, I tease all the time, we're the people, we see the vision, right? So we can tell you like, oh my God, and it's going to be, you know, we can describe it to you. You're like, yes, we can get that buy-in. And then you're like, okay, so Reese, where the canvas at? Where the brushes? And I'm like, no, I don't have none of that with me.
I didn't bring that with me today.
I didn't bring that with me. I just got excited about the vision, and I want to tell y'all about the vision. But I didn't really have all of the details in order, you know. And so you have to really know yourself. So in that, I would kind of say, start with personal development. Really begin, and you know, if I want to go deeper in here, know who you are in God, whatever your faith is. Who do you believe God has really called you to be? What type of woman do you want to be in whatever field, right? That's why I always say, I don't care, even if you're doing event planning, whatever that looks like, God, you give me divine instruction and divine wisdom on how to take this to the next level. How do I break out of the mold from regular event planners? You know what I'm saying? Give me my own sound. Give me my own look. Give me my own purpose. You know what I'm saying? And so a lot of times we get caught up watching everybody else, and we attach our identity to what we see other people doing. Exactly. You know what I'm saying? And you will lose every time you do that, because you'll get lost in other people, you know? And so you have to be very secure in who you know, what God is calling you to be, even if it looks different, even if it sounds different, even if no one has ever done it that way before, even if everyone in your field is saying this is the way you need to do it. Everybody right now says you got to be a brand. You got to be talking about yourself every day. You got to be, you know, it got to be all about you. And I say, I beg to differ. I beg to differ. It does not have to be all about me in order for me to win, you know? And sometimes pushing against that grain can get very hard for me sometimes. Sometimes I do want to give in to, okay, well, maybe I should make it a little bit about me, you know, and trying to find a balance in that, you know, because a lot of times people will take that type of humility as weakness, you know, and I've had to struggle a lot with that, you know. God, I don't want people to think because I'm choosing not to make it about me that I'm afraid or that I'm weak or that I don't have the capacity to be in the front. It's just that I choose to push the message forward. Not me, but the message, the purpose, the goal. That to me, that is more important than my face. you know what I'm saying, than my brand. It's the message, you know, and I have struggled. I can be honest, I've struggled with that, the balance of the two, of how much you need to see me and how much you need to see the message, you know. But once again, it becomes, it really, number one, comes with knowing yourself. So I would say start with before you start developing anything, you have to know who you are. And we have a lot of people, and I always say we have a lot of broken women trying to build big brands. Right? Because you're too concerned about the brand and not concerned about your brokenness, right? You got to be honest with you. That's why I say, you know, it starts with you. You have to be it first. You have to know it inside of yourself. You have to be it inside of yourself. There is no way I could get, you know, and it was a journey, Ty. I mean, so serious. Like before I started the group called the Elect Ladies back in my 20s, but I was still up and down and Reese, and I didn't know what I wanted to do. And then I left that and became a blogger, and then I was going to sell jewelry, and then I was just everywhere. You know what I'm saying? Figuring it out, right? But it took me to really, you know, grounding my feet and saying, you know what, I'm supposed to do work Demoiselle de Femme. This is where God has called me to be. And when I settled in that, Demoiselle de Femme is not my brand. That's someone else's baby, right? But God told me that is where you're supposed to serve. This is where and once I settled in that time to build somebody else's brand, God began to give me my own. And out of me serving someone else, God used me to birth the 40, which now kind of became my baby, right? And there's no way women across Chicago, now us being 120 women deep, would want to follow me if I was not grounded in, number one, in my faith and grounded in who I am. Because there's a level of respect. Think, I don't sell people anything. I sell a message. I sell a purpose. And people want in. To me, that's something special, you know, and that comes from God. That's an anointing to do that. So that's why I tell people, because people will buy into you. People buy into me and the message without me having to sell them anything. I don't have a book. I don't have a, you know, they like, I want in. I feel you. They connect to the passion about what I'm, because people can tell when you're just trying to sell them something. You know, but are you passionate about the event plan? Are you passionate about whatever it is you're trying to do? Do you really have a passion for it? Because it's going to come through and it's going to connect. But you cannot get to that place if you are shallow and all you're trying to do is sell and build a brand. No, deal with you first. Get some personal development going. Really get honest with yourself about your strengths, your weaknesses. What opportunities do you have because of your strengths? What kind of threats are posed because of your weaknesses? And really begin to get honest with yourself about that. And then from that space, begin to ask God, okay, God, these are my strengths. What could I really begin to attack or implement or develop according to what my strengths are? Because guess what? Now you're going to know who you need at the table too. Because you cannot build anything greater long. I tell people all the time, if your vision only feeds you, you haven't dreamed big enough.
That's true.
If you're the only one eating from your vision, then your vision is too small, right? Your vision is too small. God doesn't give us big visions for only us to get the coins. You know what I'm saying? For only us. We should be employing other women. You know, we should have teams of women that's winning, teams of women that's working. And I think initially that's how I went into it, even with the league. This had to be a team effort. This couldn't just be like, which is why I didn't name it Reese, LaFrances, and those women. Exactly, Reese, LaFrances, and the women. No, because it's us. It's we have to make this work. And so even if your brand is named after you, or your brand is a start with you, find someone, you know, who get a team, who wants to work with me, who sees the vision, how have I developed the sounds or the vision and the purpose, you know, in a way that I can articulate it to someone else, that they can now be inspired by it and want to work with it. Right.
So when you talk about the personal development, what analysis, is there something that, you know, myself, everyone listening can go to kind of get them started? Is any kind of leadership strengthening finders, or?
Yes, well, I just mentioned one is called Strength Finders. It's an assessment that you can do. It's one that everyone, like I said, when my exclusive that I dropped, if you give me, by the time you drop this, I'll probably will have some type of registration up. If people
We can share that.
Yeah, and we'll share it. And you will take a Strength Finders assessment. You go online, they ask you like a series of questions, and then they tell you your top 5 strengths. You get a book that comes with it. You purchase the book. Once you get the book gives you a code to go online and get the assessment. You do the assessment, and it'll tell you your top 5 strengths. It gives you details on those strengths, like what type of some of the careers you could follow because you have these strengths. What are some of the ups and downs? So that's one thing that you can look at. So that's something that you can do even if you don't want to do that in a group setting. We're going to take it a step further, of course, because sometimes you can read that and still not know what to do with it. So I really want to take people a step further to really begin to develop what that looks like in a career, right? So that's the good part about that. One of the other things, there's a DISC, a DISC assessment that also lets you know whether you are, I think it's like dominance, or, where you kind of fall and how you work with others. I like that one too, because it tells you not only who you are, but how, if you have another type of person or another type of learner or worker on your team, because of your personality, this is how you should deal with them.
Okay.
So that's pretty cool too. One of the other things that's not online that I have in person that'll be a part of the Brunch and Build Leadership Masterclass, we'll do some conflict management. What's your conflict resolution style? How do you handle conflict? Right? Mm-hmm. You have to know those things. Once again, leaders are always assessing themselves. You understand what I'm saying? Leaders are always doing so. What's my leadership style? What's my strengths? What's my weaknesses? What's my conflict management style? So there's an assessment, and I'm sure if you Google online, you can do that. But those are some of the areas you should know yourself very well in. What are your strengths? What are your, and not even weaknesses, but where are your gaps? We'll call them gaps. How do I resolve conflict? What are some conflict resolution styles? These are things that I feel like every leader needs to know. Even if you are, like I said, it's just you right now. If you're dealing with customers, you need to know that. How do you deal with conflict with your customers?
One way and the other, you're going to have to deal with it.
Come on. You know what I'm saying? Are you avoidance? Is that your conflict style? You know what I'm saying? When a customer, and you just avoid people, or are you accommodating? Are you a collaborator? Are you you know what I'm saying? When it comes to conflict, are you accommodating? These are all different conflict styles that you need to know where you lie. What's your first, and then what's your secondary way? If this way doesn't work first, I'll try this way first. What do you fall back on as your secondary when that way doesn't work? Those are important tenements to have in your leadership toolbox. I like to call it your leadership toolbox. Some other great books on leadership. John Maxwell. I call him my leadership daddy. I mean, yes, John C. Maxwell, 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership. He has, a long list of books, many that I've read. They even have a leadership Bible that John Maxwell has done. So, that I love. So John C. Maxwell is one person. Like I said, the 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership. I can't think of a few of the other ones I've read. One of the other people that I love, one of the other books that I really love is From Good to Great.
Good to Great.
From Good to Great. I cannot recall the author at this time, but From Good to Great is another good book. And it really talks about how CEOs were able to come in and take a company from being good when they were on the brinks of disaster or extinction. What type of characteristics set the ones that actually failed apart from the ones that actually thrived, right? Mm-hmm. From a CEO stepped in and was able to take that company to the next level, right? Versus someone who could not break through that glass ceiling. So that's a very good book to read as well. And I have a few others, and
Yeah,
once you
so
put
we can put a list together, and I can share it with
yeah.
everybody when we send it out. And then one of the last questions I wanted to ask you was, what in your opinion
Mhm.
makes someone an influencer? And in addition to that, how do you intend to continue to use your influence?
Wow. What makes someone an influencer? I feel like everything that I probably um said today, really a person who really sets out to empower people, not just employ, but to empower. You know, someone who is a thought leader, who is not just about the dollar amount that's attached, but someone who is really a tastemaker in their field, a thought leader in their field, someone who pushes beyond the status quo, someone who not only challenges themselves, but challenges those around them, challenges, the system. To me, that is really what an influencer is. When you can influence people to either follow you or to follow a different train of thought or a different way of thinking, or to inspire them to question a different way, question the status quo, or question what they see. To me, that's what an influencer does, right? And so whether that's in fashion, whether that's in faith, whether that's in the family, an influencer is someone who uses their God power to inspire change. And so the way I intend to continue to use my God power to inspire change is through constantly pushing the message of service, of leadership, and sisterhood, especially among young women and girls of color, and to always be mission minded, to push myself to always excel, and to operate under excellence, and to operate from a space of integrity, to always be challenging myself, and to never be afraid to challenge others. It is how I intend to use my influence, and to continue to just be open to creating, constantly, like I said before, being it. Who do I need to be, right? What do I need to be? And then if there is a lack of it, not being afraid to step in that gap and create it or implement it, and so that's what, that's how I plan to continue to use my voice to inspire change, to inspire people that, life is about who you can serve. Anyone who has become an influencer, it's because of their thoughts, right? How they think that makes them different, right? Their thought process. Even Gary Vee has made a lot of money doing startups, but right now he's become famous because he's a thought leader about how you think about being an entrepreneur, right? Mm-hmm. He didn't become famous from getting the money. And that's what people have to understand. You don't become a thought leader only because you get money. You become a thought leader because people respect how you think, how you deliver what you think, being able to step into that place and challenge people to think about things a different way. And that is what he's become famous about. And that is how I plan to use my God power, is to challenge people about how they think about being not just successful, but a woman who's a leader.
That was good. That was good. So you tell us about a masterclass. Share with everybody how they can follow you, how they can stay connected, for, all your future projects, or, get involved with Demoiselle to Femme, all that stuff, to serve.
Yes, to serve. Yes. So, you can reach me I can be followed at Reese LaFrances. That's on Instagram, Facebook, as well as Twitter. So it's REESE LaFrances. And LaFrances is actually my name. I have to tell people that all the time. I did not make that up. That is not a made up brand name. And so you can follow me there if you want to know more about the Brunch and Bill Masterclass for women leaders. If you're interested in that, if you're interested in how to get involved with the Young Women's Professional League, you can find us at 40 under 40 YWPL.org, and you can get more information about how to get involved with that, especially if you're a young woman under the age of 40, between 25 and 39, and you want to be inducted into the sisterhood. Definitely visit there. Or if you want more information about all the things that Demoiselle to Femme has going on, Demoiselle to Femme has a coalition on urban girls. We just founded the Hope Network of Schools. We're looking to start planning STEAM school for girls. So Demoiselle has a lot going on that you can get involved with. You can go to d2fchicago.org and you can get information on how you can volunteer to work with us in any capacity over there. So those are all the spaces that I either lead or serve in.
Awesome. Well, Reese, I want to thank you again, my dear, for joining the Influencer, the virtual experience. As you know, I love you and I am a fan.
And I'm a fan of yours as well. I love you too. This is my original WLLF boo.
Right. Throwback.
Yes.
I feel like we had a throwback jersey or something for that.
I know we do.
Right. Anyway, as we digress.
Yes.
All right. Ladies, I so appreciate you guys for joining. And be sure to check us in tomorrow.
Awesome.